will make him sink. That's the phrase that allegedly left Stefon Diggs speechless. Not angry, not defensive, speechless. Because this time, Cardi B didn't just unfollow, she didn't just post a subliminal, she didn't just move on quietly. She reportedly said she's ready to speak to a judge. Let that sink in. This isn't Instagram drama anymore. This isn't petty shade or tour captions. This is courtroom energy. And when someone shifts from social media responses to legal action, that means the game just changed. Sources are claiming that after weeks of back-and-forth tension, private messages, and alleged attempts to spin the narrative, Cardi is no longer interested in silence. She's prepared to put things on record, officially. And the moment that rumor hit, Stefon went quiet. No posts, no likes, no subtle digs, just silence. And if you've been watching this situation unfold, you already know something. When a man who's been talking suddenly stops talking, it usually means he just realized the stakes got higher. Because here's the uncomfortable question everyone's whispering. What does Cardi know? What is she prepared to say under oath? And why would the idea of her speaking to a judge allegedly make him sink? This isn't just relationship fallout anymore. This is reputation, contracts, endorsements, public image, legal consequences. And if Cardi really is ready to take this to that level, then whatever happened behind the scenes might be bigger than we thought. Up until now, this entire situation felt like emotional fallout, breakup tension, ego bruises, public unfollowing, subtle shade. But the moment the word judge entered the conversation, everything shifted. Because here's the thing, celebrities argue all the time. They post cryptic captions, they rant, they leak stories through sources. That's normal, that's messy, but it's normal. What's not normal? Hinting that you're ready to speak formally, on record, in a legal setting. And that's exactly why people are reacting so strongly to Cardi's alleged statement. If this was just heartbreak, she could have dragged him online. If this was just betrayal, she could have exposed text messages. If this was just anger, she could have gone on live and vented. But allegedly preparing to speak to a judge? That implies documentation. That implies seriousness. That implies there's something bigger than social media drama happening behind closed doors. Now let's be clear, nothing has been officially filed publicly. There's no confirmed court appearance related to new accusations. But what's circulating online is the idea that Cardi is prepared to protect herself legally if things escalate further. And that's where Stefon's alleged silence becomes interesting. Because up until this point, reports suggested he was frustrated, that he felt embarrassed, that he believed he was painted unfairly in the narrative. There were whispers that he felt blindsided by how quickly she cut ties publicly. But after this latest development, nothing. No emotional tweets, no late-night likes, no cryptic captions, just quiet. And quiet from someone who was reportedly raging before. That's noticeable. Some fans think it means he's being advised to stay silent. Others think it means he didn't expect the situation to escalate to this level. Because there's a huge difference between arguing with your ex and potentially facing legal discussions. If Cardi is serious about protecting her name, her peace, or her boundaries in a formal way, that changes the dynamic completely. It moves from, "he hurt me," to, "this could affect both of us permanently." And here's where the phrase "will make him sink" becomes symbolic. Nobody knows exactly what she meant by that. It could have been emotional, meaning his own behavior would be his downfall. It could have been metaphorical, meaning his image would suffer if the truth came out. Or it could have simply been strong language said in frustration. But when that phrase is paired with the idea of speaking to a judge, people connect dots. Now the internet is doing what it does best, speculating. Was there more behind the scenes than fans realized? Were there private disagreements that went too far? Was there something said or done that crossed a legal boundary? Again, there is no confirmed public evidence of wrongdoing. But the shift in tone from emotional breakup to legal readiness is what's fueling this narrative. And here's another layer. Cardi has always been vocal. When she feels wronged, she speaks. Loudly, directly, publicly. So if she's choosing a more formal route this time, that signals something different. It signals strategy. It signals calculation. It signals that maybe she doesn't want chaos. She wants control. Because sometimes the most powerful move isn't arguing online. It's saying, if this continues, I'll handle it the proper way. And whether Stefon is actually worried or simply choosing to stay mature and quiet, the optics matter. Right now, Cardi looks composed, focused, ready. And Stefon, he looks still. And when the noise suddenly stops, it usually means something serious just happened behind the scenes. For Cardi to even hint at speaking to a judge, something had to shift behind the scenes. Because let's be honest, celebrities threaten lawsuits all the time. Most of the time it's posturing, it's emotional, it's dramatic. It never actually moves past words. But this situation feels different for one reason. Timing. This didn't happen at the height of the breakup chaos. It didn't happen when emotions were raw and fresh. It reportedly came after weeks of tension, after alleged back-channel conversations, after social media narratives were already circulating. That means if Cardi is escalating, it likely wasn't impulsive. It likely came after something else happened. Now again, there are no confirmed public filings showing new legal action. So everything here stays in the realm of reported tension and interpretation. But the internet isn't reacting to thin air. They're reacting to patterns. Pattern 1. She went silent. Pattern 2. He allegedly tried to re-establish communication. Pattern 3. Narratives about who was wrong started spreading. Pattern 4. She hinted at being prepared to speak formally. That sequence matters, because when someone moves from silence to legal readiness, it usually means one of two things. Either something was said that crossed a line, or they're preparing to protect themselves before something escalates. And here's the uncomfortable part people aren't saying out loud. This isn't just about emotions anymore. It's about reputation. Stefon is a professional athlete. Contracts, sponsors, team dynamics, public image. Every move matters. Cardi is a global entertainer. Brand partnerships, streaming numbers, media relationships. Every headline carries weight. If either one of them says the wrong thing publicly, it doesn't just trend, it costs money. So if she's ready to speak to a judge, that implies documentation, screenshots, messages, timeline clarity, something structured, not vibes, not feelings, structure. And that's why the word sync hits so hard. Because if there are receipts, real ones, and they were ever presented in a formal setting, the fallout wouldn't be emotional. It would be reputational. Now, let's also consider another possibility. Maybe this isn't about accusations at all. Maybe it's about boundaries. Maybe she's simply signaling, do not push me. Sometimes when someone says they're ready to speak legally, they aren't planning to file something tomorrow. They're setting a line in the sand. They're saying, if narratives continue, if harassment continues, if private things get leaked, there will be consequences. And that type of boundary can absolutely make someone freeze. Because up until that point, it was just drama. Now it's potential liability, and you can see why someone would go speechless over that. There's also another layer people are missing. Cardi has kids. No matter how public the relationship was, once children are involved, the energy changes. If she feels like something could negatively affect her home life, her safety, or her peace, legal protection becomes less dramatic and more practical. People online love to frame this as revenge energy, but it could just as easily be protection energy. And here's what makes this situation even more intense. Nobody knows what was said privately. Publicly, it looks like breakup fallout. But private conversations? Those are always more complex. If harsh words were exchanged, if threats were implied, if reputations were questioned, we would never see that unless one of them chose to expose it. And Cardi choosing the word judge instead of Instagram tells you she's thinking strategically, not emotionally. Now let's talk about Stefon's silence again. Silence doesn't automatically equal guilt. It can mean maturity, it can mean legal advice, it can mean exhaustion, it can mean choosing not to escalate. But silence immediately after legal language enters the chat. That's interesting timing. Because normally, when someone feels wrongfully accused, they clap back fast. If he feels completely unbothered and secure, you'd expect some subtle "I'm good" energy. Instead, what people are seeing is stillness. And in high-profile situations, stillness often means someone told you, "Stop talking." And if that's the case, then this has officially moved beyond ego bruises. This has moved into risk management, which is an entirely different game. The biggest takeaway right now isn't whether she'll actually go to court. It's this: the power dynamic shifted. Before, he looked reactive and emotional. Now she looks strategic and prepared. And when one person moves from arguing to preparing documentation, the other person usually realizes they're not in a regular breakup anymore. They're in a situation that could define them long term, and that's the kind of realization that makes someone go quiet. At this point, this isn't just about what happened between Cardi and Stefon. It's about who controls the narrative. Because once a breakup goes public, especially between two high-profile names, it stops being personal. It becomes perception. And perception, in their world, is currency. Right now, two different images are competing. Cardi, calm, composed, strategic. Stefon, silent, possibly stunned, possibly calculating. But here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Whoever loses control of the narrative loses the power. When Cardi reportedly said she was ready to speak to a judge, that wasn't just a legal hint. That was a signal. It told the public, "I'm not afraid of the facts." And whether that was intentional or not, it positioned her as someone confident in her side of the story. Confidence changes everything. If she was lying, exaggerating, or bluffing, legal talk would be risky. But when someone invokes a courtroom energy without flinching, people assume they're prepared. And that assumption alone shifts sympathy. Now let's look at Stefon's side. If he speaks out aggressively, he risks looking defensive. If he stays silent, he risks looking cornered. If he responds emotionally, he risks validating the escalation. There's no easy move here. Because once legal energy is introduced, casual clapping back becomes dangerous. And that's where the phrase "make him sink" becomes psychological. It doesn't have to mean prison. It doesn't have to mean lawsuits. It can simply mean your own behavior will drown you. Sometimes people sink because of what they did. Sometimes they sink because they react poorly. Sometimes they sink because they underestimate the other person. Now imagine this from a PR perspective. You're an athlete with endorsement deals. You're already dealing with performance scrutiny. You're already in headlines for relationship drama. And then suddenly your ex suggests she's ready to speak formally. The first thing your advisors tell you: stop. Do not add fuel. Do not escalate. Do not post. Because the second you speak recklessly, you create evidence. And that's why this silence feels heavier than his previous reactions. Earlier reports said he was angry, messaging, trying to talk, venting privately. But now, nothing. And when someone who was allegedly emotional suddenly becomes controlled, it usually means they've realized something. Maybe they realized this isn't about winning the breakup. Maybe they realized this is about protecting their name. Or maybe, and this is the uncomfortable theory floating online, maybe there's something he doesn't want dissected under scrutiny. Again, no confirmed accusations exist publicly. But perception runs faster than proof. And once fans smell courtroom, they assume severity. Let's also talk about power. During the relationship, the internet painted Cardi as the emotionally invested one, showing up to games, supporting publicly, being vocal. Now, she looks detached, and detachment is power. When someone moves from reactive to reserved, they look in control. When someone moves from loud to strategic, they look prepared. And if Stefon was used to being pursued, admired, supported loudly, this shift might feel destabilizing because the energy flipped. He went from center of attention to potential subject of discussion. That's a psychological shift that can absolutely make someone freeze. There's also another layer: credibility. Cardi has publicly weathered scandals before. She's survived backlash. She's faced legal issues in her career. And she's always come out louder. So when someone with that history moves cautiously instead of chaotically, it signals growth. And growth can be intimidating to someone who expected the old pattern. If he thought she'd rant online, and instead she hinted at legal clarity, that's not the script he expected. And when someone doesn't follow the script you thought they would, it throws you off balance. Right now, fans aren't even arguing about who cheated or who hurt who. They're asking, what would be so serious that she'd go that far? And once that question exists, the imagination fills in the blanks. That's how image wars escalate. Not through confirmed facts, through unanswered tension. And the longer Stefon stays quiet, the more powerful her statement feels. Because silence in this context doesn't neutralize the situation. It amplifies it. If he speaks, he risks escalation. If he doesn't, the speculation grows. That's a strategic trap. Now here's the key thing to remember. We don't know what actually happened privately. This could all be precautionary. It could be misinterpreted. It could be protective, not punitive. But perception doesn't wait for court documents. It reacts to tone shifts. And the tone shifted dramatically. From breakup drama to legal readiness. From emotional shade to structured silence. And when that shift happens publicly, somebody usually feels the weight of it first. Right now it looks like Stefon did. Now let's slow this down and really think. When Cardi allegedly said she was ready to speak to a judge and that this situation would make him sink, people instantly jumped to extreme conclusions. But what does sink actually mean in this context? It doesn't automatically mean jail. It doesn't automatically mean lawsuits. It doesn't automatically mean criminal accusations. Sink, in a celebrity world, often means something much more strategic. Reputation damage. And in the NFL, reputation is currency. Let's be real. Athletes can survive performance slumps. They can survive relationship drama. They can even survive public embarrassment. But what they can't survive easily is credibility damage. If sponsors feel uncomfortable, if teams feel like headlines are becoming distractions, if brand partners start seeing risk instead of value, that's when careers don't collapse overnight. They slowly sink. Now again, nothing official has been filed publicly. There are no confirmed court actions. But if Cardi is prepared to protect herself legally, even in a civil or documentation sense, that implies she feels strongly about her position. And strong confidence paired with legal readiness sends a message. I'm not bluffing. That's powerful. Because if there were ever private messages, recordings, or context that could reframe the narrative, even the possibility of them surfacing creates pressure. Now, here's another layer. The NFL operates under conduct policies. Teams care about optics. Even rumors can trigger internal reviews if they get loud enough. So imagine being Stefon right now. Your name is already trending for relationship drama. Your performance is under a microscope. Fans are dissecting every move. And now the person you just broke up with is signaling courtroom-level seriousness. You don't need charges for that to feel heavy. You just need uncertainty. Uncertainty is what sinks people, because uncertainty makes sponsors hesitate. Uncertainty makes advisors tighten up. Uncertainty makes you second-guess every move. Now flip to Cardi's side. She's on tour. She's working. She's staying visually unbothered. That's not accidental. In PR language, that's called narrative discipline. She's not reacting emotionally. She's not defending herself publicly. She's letting the idea of legal confidence float without elaboration. That creates mystery, and mystery is louder than accusation. If she was screaming details online, people would call it messy, but hinting at formal steps, that feels intentional, and when someone moves intentionally, the other person feels exposed, even if nothing has been formally exposed yet. Now here's where we need to stay grounded. There is no confirmed public documentation of wrongdoing. There is no official charge. There is no filed complaint visible, so everything right now lives in the realm of strategic tension, not proven action. But in high-profile breakups, strategic tension can be more powerful than actual litigation, because the idea that something serious could exist is enough to shift perception, and perception shapes careers. Let's also talk psychology for a second. When someone thinks a breakup is about ego, they argue. When they realize it might affect their stability, they freeze. Earlier reports painted Stefon as angry, reactive, trying to reach out. Now the narrative is that he's quiet. That's not random. That suggests either he's been advised to calm down, he realized escalation would hurt him, or he understands the stakes are higher than emotion. And if it's the third option, and that means the phrase "make him sink" landed harder than fans realize, because the only thing that makes confident public figures go quiet is risk. And legal language equals risk. Now let's consider something else people are missing. Cardi has survived courtrooms before. She understands legal systems. She understands documentation. That means she knows when to use that language carefully. So if she's invoking it now, even vaguely, that's not naive. It's calculated. And calculation is scarier than rage, because rage is predictable. Calculation isn't. The other thing to watch is timeline. If nothing happens legally and everything cools off, this could have simply been a power statement, a boundary reminder. But if something does surface formally later, then this moment will look like a warning shot. And warning shots are meant to be heard. Right now, Stefon's silence could mean maturity, but it could also mean awareness. And awareness often comes after realizing you underestimated someone. Because if he thought this would stay in the realm of social media shade, and it didn't, that's destabilizing. This entire situation has shifted from who cheated to what's at stake. And once the stakes feel real, even confident people adjust. Whether this becomes a legal story or not, one thing is clear. Cardi positioned herself as someone unafraid of scrutiny. And when you publicly show you're comfortable under oath-level pressure, it forces the other person to ask themselves, am I? That's where sinking begins. Here's what most people don't understand about high-profile celebrity drama. It's never just about the two people involved. It's about the rooms they move in. And right now, the rooms are watching. When Cardi B made that statement that she's ready to speak to a judge, it didn't just hit blogs and fan pages. It hit PR teams, agents, brand managers, lawyers, team executives, sponsors. Because when legal language enters a breakup, it changes the category of the situation. It stops being gossip. It becomes potential liability. Now let's talk business. Stefon Diggs isn't just an athlete. He's an asset. He's a brand. He's part of a multi-million-dollar machine that includes endorsements, performance bonuses, contract clauses, and image protections. And brands don't panic over relationship drama. They panic over unpredictability. If there's even a small chance that something legally complicated could surface, and brand teams start asking quiet questions. Is there documentation? Is there risk exposure? Is there anything we don't know yet? Are we prepared if headlines escalate? They don't wait for lawsuits, they prepare for optics. Now imagine being Stefon. You're trying to recover from public breakup energy. You're trying to focus on your career. You're trying to stabilize perception. And suddenly your ex is positioning herself as someone unafraid of judicial scrutiny. That's pressure. Not necessarily guilt, Not necessarily fear, but pressure. And pressure in the public eye feels heavy. Because even if nothing happens legally, the narrative has shifted from relationship drama to potential seriousness. And that seriousness forces composure, which explains something people have started noticing. Stefon's tone changed. The loud energy? Gone. The reactive vibe? Quieted. The social media signals? Reduced. That's not random. That's containment mode. And containment mode usually kicks in when advisors step in. When lawyers say, do not escalate. When PR says, stay silent. When management says, let this cool down. Silence doesn't always mean innocence. It also doesn't mean guilt. Sometimes it means someone finally understands the weight of the moment. Now flip it. Cardi's positioning is strategic. She's not screaming. She's not detailing. She's not accusing. She's projecting composure. And composure under scrutiny is powerful. Because when someone looks calm while referencing legal readiness, it signals confidence. And confidence makes the other side uncomfortable. Now here's another element that people are missing. The court of public opinion and an actual court are very different. Public opinion moves on emotion. Actual courts move on evidence. If Cardi is truly prepared to speak formally about anything, that implies she believes her position is grounded. And whether that's about boundaries, behavior, communication, or something deeper, the fact that she feels prepared is what shifts the power dynamic. Because in public breakups, power often belongs to whoever appears least afraid. And right now, she looks steady. The other piece here is industry politics. Both of them operate in powerful networks: music, sports, media, corporate partnerships. When two powerful brands separate publicly and legal undertones enter the conversation, neutral parties start distancing emotionally. Not dramatically, quietly. They watch. They assess. They wait. Nobody wants to back the wrong narrative too early. That's why industry reactions right now are measured. You don't see loud endorsements. You don't see strong condemnations. You see observation. Because everyone understands something. If this becomes legal, everything changes. Now, let's address something important. There are currently no confirmed public court filings related to this situation. No official charges, no verified cases, no formal accusations released. Everything right now exists in the realm of tension and positioning. And positioning can be strategic without being explosive. But positioning also shapes perception. And perception affects leverage. If Stefon thought this would be a clean split with some messy headlines, the judge comment likely disrupted that expectation, because judge language equals seriousness. And seriousness equals risk. Now here's the psychology shift. Earlier, the narrative was, why is he angry? Now the narrative is, why is he quiet? That's a different energy. Anger is emotional. Quiet is calculated. And when someone shifts from emotional to calculated, it usually means they've reassessed the situation. Maybe advisors stepped in. Maybe perspective shifted. Maybe he realized escalation would hurt him more than silence. Whatever the reason, the temperature dropped. And that drop tells you something. It tells you this isn't just about ego anymore. It's about consequence. And consequence is what makes people still. Now let's zoom out. Cardi saying she's ready to speak to a judge could mean many things. Protecting her image, protecting her peace, protecting her children, protecting herself legally, or simply sending a boundary message. Sometimes legal language isn't about action. It's about clarity. It's about saying, I'm not playing. And that alone can reset dynamics. If Stefon underestimated her resolve before, he likely doesn't now. Because once someone signals they're comfortable under legal scrutiny, it forces accountability energy into the room. And accountability energy changes how everyone moves. This situation has evolved from messy celebrity breakup to strategic standoff. No shouting, no exposés, no documented courtroom battles, yet, just positioning. And positioning, when done carefully, is powerful. Now the question isn't, did something happen? The question is, who's prepared if something does? And in the public eye, preparation looks like strength. Right now, Cardi looks prepared. Stefon looks cautious. And the industry, still watching. Now we're at the point where this isn't just about what was said. It's about what happens next. Because once legal language enters a public breakup, there are only three possible directions: escalation, settlement, or strategic silence. And right now, we're in the silence phase. But silence doesn't mean peace, it means recalibration. Let's talk about pride. Public men with public success often struggle with public loss, not because they can't feel heartbreak, but because loss in front of millions feels like humiliation. When Cardi walked away, she didn't just leave privately. She shifted the narrative publicly. That matters. And when she later referenced being ready to speak to a judge, that wasn't emotional language, that was structured language. Structured language hits different. It signals intention. Now imagine being Stefon in that moment. You're already dealing with public breakup optics. Your performance is under scrutiny. Your name is trending. Then suddenly your ex positions herself as legally unafraid. That's destabilizing. Because now it's no longer about who moved on first. It's about who's prepared for consequences. And here's something people overlook. Sometimes the threat of legal clarity is more powerful than actual legal action. Because it forces both sides to evaluate risk. It forces lawyers to review past communication. It forces teams to think about discovery. It forces advisors to ask uncomfortable questions. And once those questions start, you can't unask them. That's why the energy shifted. Earlier, the story felt loud and reactive. Now it feels measured, calculated, tight. Which tells me something happened behind closed doors. Maybe not a lawsuit, maybe not paperwork, but definitely conversations. The kind of conversations where someone says, let's not make this worse. Now here's the real power shift. Cardi isn't escalating publicly. She's not dropping receipts. She's not threatening. She's not ranting. She made one powerful implication and stepped back. That's discipline. And discipline in public conflicts often signals confidence. When someone is unsure, they overtalk. When someone is certain, they don't. That's why her silence now feels intentional. And that silence creates pressure. Because pressure grows in uncertainty. Now flip the lens. If nothing serious exists legally, Stefon's team likely wants this buried fast. If something complicated exists, they want it contained even faster. Either way, a calm is strategic. That's why we've seen less visible reaction from him. Less indirect posting, less emotional signaling, more neutrality. Neutrality is often legal advice in disguise. Now let's zoom out to legacy. Cardi's brand is built on authenticity, dominance, and fearlessness. If she backs down from something she implied seriously, that affects perception. So she has to be careful. Stefon's brand is built on performance, masculinity, and composure. If he looks reactive or unstable, that affects endorsements. So he also has to be careful. Both of them are walking a thin line, and that line is thinner than the public realizes. Because once lawyers start advising, personalities disappear. Strategy takes over. And right now, strategy is leading. Now here's the part people don't want to admit. This might never reach a courtroom. The judge comment could be symbolic, a warning shot, a boundary declaration, a message meant for one person, not the public. But once the public hears it, it becomes a storyline. And storylines are hard to erase. Now the internet is watching for court filings, subtle clues, body language shifts, contract leaks, interview slips. And that constant watch creates pressure. Pressure creates mistakes. Unless someone is disciplined. So the question isn't just, will she speak to a judge? The question is, who loses more if this escalates? Because escalation rarely benefits both sides. It benefits the truth, but it damages reputations in the process. Now let's address something important. There is currently no verified public court case between them related to this situation. No official documentation. No confirmed legal proceedings. What exists is narrative tension. And narrative tension is powerful because it keeps people engaged. But it's also dangerous, because if either side miscalculates, the situation could spiral. And that's why I think both sides are moving slower now. More careful, more controlled. The rage phase is gone. The warning phase happened. Now we're in the chess phase, and chess is quiet. Cardi made her move. Stefon adjusted. Now we wait to see if anyone makes another. Because here's the thing about powerful public figures. They don't threaten lightly. And they don't speak carelessly when lawyers are involved. So if she said she's ready to speak to a judge, she understood the weight of that sentence. And if he went quiet after, he understood it too. This isn't tabloid energy anymore. It's positioning. And positioning shapes outcomes. So what happens next? Option 1. It cools down completely. No escalation, just distance. Option 2. Something formal surfaces. Filings, mediation, protective moves. Option 3. One side breaks silence again, and the temperature rises. Right now, we're between option 1 and 2. And that tension is what keeps everyone watching. Because when power meets pride, something eventually gives. The only question is, will it be quiet resolution or loud revelation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this was a symbolic warning or the beginning of something bigger?